Hey, everybody, welcome on back. It's the Rubbin is Racing podcast, fresh out of Talladega with myself, Spider, Quigs, Owen behind the ones and twos. No Moonhead this week. Moonhead is doing Moonhead things this week, but we'll see him again next week. We had a fantastic time down in Talladega and very excited about the winner. We're very excited about this episode because we have not one but two guests. I sat down with Carson Hocevar. I got about 15 minutes with him after his first win, so we'll have some recaps of that. And then Spider had sat down with the guy, I don't know if you guys heard of him, Tony Stewart. So we got Carson Hocevar and Tony Stewart coming up. But first off, we're going to get to everything that had happened. And even before that, we're going to remind you guys that we're brought to you by BODYARMOR Flash I.V. This episode is brought to you by BODYARMOR Flash I.V. I'm cracking open the orange flavor as we speak right now, but Flash I.V. is packed with electrolytes delivering faster, longer-lasting hydration without any artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners. So whether you're training, traveling, or just feeling the heat, Flash IV by BODYARMOR is the one for you. Work hard and hydrate hard with BODYARMOR Flash IV. Grab it at 7-Eleven or wherever you see it because this stuff is delicious and it works. That's it, Spider. We're back. We had stayed this time closer to Birmingham than we did to Talladega because we set up everything kind of last minute. And so Spider and I got to witness Birmingham really for the first time. And what's your take on the town of Birmingham? Because I think people who travel to races like to know where you stay and where you don't stay. We normally stay in like Pell City or closer to Talladega. This time we were out beyond Moody, Alabama, which was in the shadow of Birmingham. What do you think of the city, Spider?
I loved it. I think Birmingham's super underrated. I didn't love the fact that I kind of almost got stranded there last night. I got stuck there with some flight delays. But no, Birmingham itself is unbelievable. I mean, Large, we had 3 great meals while we were there. We went out every time we could and found the best restaurants in Birmingham. So, and I don't mean to discredit Talladega. I guess my point is we have been there and done it before. So, like, I was kind of okay with a little bit of a delay getting in later and missing Friday on the boulevard, for better or worse. I mean, it resulted in me being, like, feeling good and ready to go all weekend, which is pretty unusual for Talladega. But I think we hit a home run. You know, we had the perfect accommodations in terms of we were staying close enough to the track but far enough away where we can kind of get a little bit of Birmingham.
Yeah, and I think, too, we got very lucky with the weather.
Yep.
The rain seemed to happen at opportune times. So the whole weekend was fantastic. It seemed like the stands had a very good crowd in them. And then, obviously, seeing that celebration and the winner, the guy who had won, had really made for a special experience at the track. Studded with a bunch of stars again. I had bumped into Marshawn Lynch at this kids thing. They had that Lego. They have a Lego section of the Midway. They have a big thing there. And so Marshawn Lynch and Noah Gragson were there just kind of doing stuff with kids. You're trying to bring that next generation of NASCAR drivers there. Spider and I had floated in there. I saw Marshawn. I gave him a great dap, by the way. I fucking nailed it again. I feel so good about that. Some lady comes off the Midway and comes over and says, "Can I get a picture with me and my friend?" And he was like, nah, this shit's for the kids. And then turned around and walked back with me. I was like, yeah, fucking Marshawn. But he's so invested in this sport. He's loving life, seeing Marshawn Lynch at multiple races just this year. So I think that's great for the sport.
That is really cool. Just spontaneously, you mentioning that, Large, just made me think about, like, if you assembled a team of NFL players that have attended NASCAR races, I think you'd have a pretty good roster.
Yeah.
I don't know where your QB would be, but your head coach is John Gruden. Your running back room, you've got Marshawn Lynch, Alvin Kamara, A.J. Dillon from I believe he plays for the Panthers now.
Yep.
And then wide receiver, as recently as this year, we were rubbing shoulders with Puka Nacua at the Daytona 500. And then, I saw Jason Kelsey this week.
Sure.
I gave him a fist bump while he was working on Corey Day's car, I think it was, which, by the way, they won.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my point is always cool. You never know who you're going to see at the NASCAR track. Sometimes it's artists, sometimes it's wrestlers. A lot of times it's NFL players. But the NFL guys seemingly have an affinity for NASCAR, which is really interesting. The players, come and watch the races. And then the football players who don't make the NFL seemingly come and become the pit crew guys. So it's just really fascinating to see kind of that synchrony or whatever the word is.
Synchronicity, we'll say?
Yeah.
I don't mind that. And yet we still, I know we mentioned it last week. I hate to give this guy more headlines, but Stephen A. Smith doubled down on the whole, non-athletic thing while Marshawn Lynch is saying they're athletes. Who do you listen to, Stephen A. Smith or Marshawn Lynch? And then Joey Logano had said something like, people like to make comments to stay relevant. He said that about Stephen A. Smith. And then Stephen A. Smith came back. Look, I don't know him from a can of paint. I said what I said. I'm not impressed by people trying to question what I do or what I say. I've been around sports media a long time, and I call it like I see it. If I feel a way about it, that's fine. But I'm not losing sleep over Joe Logano or anyone else in NASCAR. Tell me what I should or shouldn't say. I got to be honest with you. That's not even a great response. Stephen A. Smith, not that I had a tremendous amount of respect for him because I just don't pay attention to him as a loudmouth. He's a garden variety fucking idiot at this point. Like, honestly, he's a garden variety idiot. So take that as I wish I could get more upset about it. But then this other dude, do you mind if I mention this headline?
Please.
This guy, Bubba the Love Sponge. He's a wildly popular radio DJ who I believe Hulk Hogan fucked his wife in front of him, allegedly, or whatever the fuck I have to say. But that was the whole part of the Gawker thing where Hulk Hogan won a ton of money. So this fucking cuck now is saying that Bubba Wallace is the wrong African-American guy to be in that seat. They should get a different black guy in. Like, move him out, move fucking Bubba Wallace. I don't know where people who had no fucking clue about the sport, and he saw the clip from the big wreck that we had seen intimately from our perch. We were on turn 4, by the way. So we saw that wreck happen in real time. And there was a lot more going on than Bubba just being a little bit greedy or trying to make blocks too early in the race. It was Logano into Blaney, into Ross Chastain, into Bubba. There's a lot of shit going on. And then this other fucking mouth breather starts saying stuff like that. I guess it's good for NASCAR to have other people talking about it, but unfortunately the other people talking about it are absolute fucking idiots. Right? Or am I fucking crazy?
No.
Maybe you didn't know about the Bubba the Love Sponge thing, but it's stuck in my craw that to hear that from that fucking cuck.
You're absolutely right, Large. To me, this kind of reeks of like Stephen A. Smith, like just speaking incredibly ignorantly about something he is unfamiliar with, which is almost like reeks of like desperation or rage. I don't know what his like end goal is here, but it's uncommon for Stephen A. Like, I hate to be the guy that's like stick to what he normally does, stick to sports essentially.
But that may be I haven't listened to Bubba the Love Sponge, but that may be him sticking to what he does. He might just be a guy that just says racist stuff.
Yeah, it's rage bait.
It's just like I don't know. It's just so frustrating to me. I hate to be the gatekeeper that I hate so much about NASCAR and be like, listen, like leave our sport alone. But at the same time, like to me, if you're going to be critical, you have to at least not be ignorant. And there seems to be a lot of ignorance from both of these guys.
And by the way, we saw Bubba on the track. I don't know if you were there when I saw him right before they went out for driver intros. And he was like, hey, Lodge, come here for a sec. So I go over. I'm like, what's up? He's like, I got so much shit for that. We were joking around, and I made you guys cut the clip about him misgendering my dog, which I fucking loved. So he's like, I got so much shit from that. I'm like, I'm so glad you got shit for that. Fuck you. You know what I mean? You hurt my heart. You hurt my dog's heart. I have been unable to maintain an erection since you said it. Like, the whole deal. So me and Bubba, I think, are still tight, but Bubba the Love Sponge can go eat a dick. It's just a real great weekend all the way around, but the racing for Sunday turned into exactly what true NASCAR fans don't want. Fuel saving, pack style racing. If they were too wide, no one could create that third lane without essentially deploying a parachute on the back of their car and being sucked back way into the draft. It was frustrating to most people. So if you all of a sudden say, oh, Large and Spider seem to be filled with all shits and giggles about what they saw at Talladega this weekend, it's because we saw it from the fans. And from the stands. Yeah. We saw it in the stands with the fans, and it's always electric there. I will say, but go ahead.
It's easy to get caught up in the poll and whatever feedback. I think you raised a good point, Large. And it's like, look around at the people around you during the race. Were those people having a good time? And we were sitting on a little perch, and just beneath us was the college section.
Yeah.
These kids were having the time of their life. Everyone was shirt off. Denny Hamlin or Kyle Larson would come around. The middle fingers would be up. They were guzzing beers and then throwing them down to the front row. And there was literally it looked like a snowbank of fucking Miller Lite cans just at the racetrack from all these kids. They were having a great time. Everyone at the race, seemingly was having a great time. And that's what I think is important. It's easy to be critical of something you see on TV or online. We can speak firsthand to that. We see it every day. But I don't know. I thought it was a great weekend. And I think it was highlighted by the fact that we had a bunch of new winners.
All new winners.
Exactly.
Arca, O'Reilly, and Cup, you had all new winners. Quiggs, did you watch the network coverage of it?
Yeah.
I heard the commercials were fucking egregious.
Yeah.
I can't speak intelligently about that, but it seemed like, especially when the big one went off, it was like, all right, we'll be right back. And everyone's like, what do you mean you'll be right back? Let's talk about this fucking crash from 26 different angles. And we didn't get that. Instead, they had gone to commercial.
Yeah.
I can understand that infuriating people.
I had no issue with that, really. Because from what I can remember, you got the crash, a couple replays, and then it was like, honestly, they almost needed a break to be like, let's break this down and figure out what the hell happened. Because it was... most angles were just white smoke for that. You couldn't see anything. So I didn't mind the 3-minute break, and then they come back with all right, here's everyone involved. But I don't know. Commercials are commercials. That's just
You got the book report on it, you're saying? So, they had some time to digest it, get a couple of definitive angles as opposed to just having whatever they had, get the right on.
The only time I'll be mad about a commercial is if, they're in a commercial and you miss the big one.
Something.
Yes,
okay.
I will agree with
if
that.
They go after it, it is what it is.
To Quiggs' point, even at the track, it felt like there was 15-minute lull following the big one, and understandably so. They have to clean it up. But to me, that's the perfect opportunity for commercials. And again, you don't know when the big one's going to come, but my point is you do know that there will be one, and that is the opportunity to kind of go ham on the commercials.
Give me 30 minutes of commercials and then come back and be like, we're going commercial free for the rest of the race.
As soon as the big one came out, Large, I ran to the bathroom. I got a drink. I came back with my Cuervo drink, was watching the rest of the race, and it was perfect timing. You know what I mean? So
right.
There is a little bit of something to be said about it being digestible. And to Quiggs' point, the big one was so goddamn big that it took quite a bit of time for the investigators to name everyone involved and implicated. So in that name of things, I'm okay with it being a beat. I do agree with Quiggs. It is egregious and unacceptable to have a commercial during the big one.
When you miss it. So you'd rather not miss it than not be able to get the immediate reaction.
I agree, 1,000,000%. Yeah.
We weren't in a suite per se this time. We were at one of these outdoor balcony tents, these luxury type stuff, food and the drinks and all that kind of good. So it was all comfortable and shit, but we never had any kind of replay. We were just working off the Diamond Vision or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And I don't know. It's I can understand people getting frustrated with the pack racing and listening to how some of the drivers that spoke about it. Moonhead hated it. Moonhead's not here, I'll say, but I said I spoke to him a little bit last night, and he's like, I hated it. I also think that Moonhead also hates the Earnhardt comparisons with Hocevar. That burns through him.
Yeah.
Gives him a fucking ulcer more than anybody else. But obviously people like to, use superlatives whenever something good happens in the sport. But either way, it was a lovely weekend. It was a lovely weekend for us down in Talladega. We appreciate Cuervo for bringing us down and whatnot. And it I don't know, we had a great time all the way around.
We made the broadcast, Large.
Yeah, we made the broadcast with Reddick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, congrats to Tyler Reddick, by the way. Honestly, the reason I found out about his multi-year contract extension at 2311 was because the listeners were tweeting me footage of us on the broadcast in which it said, breaking news, Tyler Reddick signs multi-year extension with 2311. So congrats to Tyler Reddick. Great to see him. We're pulling for him now, forever, and before it was cool to do so. So
I can tell you, while we were sitting there, that gangster granny,
yeah.
I don't know her, but she's apparently this viral thing and sweetest little old lady you've ever met in your life. And we did something with her with the Macklemore boys. Some barbecue content before we got into the track,
which was awesome.
Yeah, that was great. That bone-in ribeyes that we were slapping down.
Yeah, Large's nose was essentially going bloodhound mode. Someone was barbecuing in the infield, and 2 minutes later we had the biggest plate. What do we have? Picanha? What even cuts of beef was it?
Picanha. We had the picanha. Like, so they had their like these giant ribs and this Conecuh sausage and these ribeyes and these tomahawks and all these kind of things going on. But I had seen on the smoker behind them, they had some picanhas that were coming straight off. So when they asked what our favorite cut of meat was, Spider says, I like this. I like this ribeye cap that you guys have been giving it. The cap from the ribeye,
Yeah.
the treasured part. So Spider was like, I love this. They were like, how about you, Large? You're the food guy. I was like, you know what I love and I don't see too often? A nice picanha. They were like, oh, let's get one off. So we got it fresh off the smoker. Quigsy, I'm telling you, it was very
what
good.
Is a picanha, if you don't mind?
It's a cut, and it used to only be in like Brazilian restaurants. So it has a fat cap running along one side of it. Almost looks like you would say it was tri-tippy because it does have almost a triangular look to it.
You'd love it, Quigs.
When it's cooked correctly, like you get it at those like Fogo de Chao places and whatnot, cooked correctly and just sliced against the grain. Fuck. And so this little old lady is there, and I almost turned her hip to dust getting to that meat. Then we see her again on the track, and I'm like, what's the deal with this old broad? I love her. She comes at Tyler Reddick with a gigantic bra. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And she had all the drivers signing one of her big tit slings, which is fucking disgusting and wonderful all at the same time. So I don't know. It was like a weird and wonderful weekend at Talladega. Lady. Oh, do you know her?
Yeah, I think so. If it's who I'm thinking of,
it has to be. I thought it was. They used to wheel out an older woman for like St. Peter's basketball game. Remember her? Like,
oh yeah, Sister Jean.
Sister Jean.
Yeah.
So I thought it was going to be another Sister Jean thing, and the next thing you know, she's throwing around her bra.
Yeah, no,
like, you know what I mean?
I think if this is the lady I'm thinking of, she's been around since like the Vine days, and she's like a puppet for somebody, just like pulling her strings to be like, if a grandma did this, it would be funny.
That's exactly it. Somebody had said, why didn't you tag this dude? And I hit the guy who they said, why didn't we tag? It's like 4.1 million followers.
Is his name like Ross something?
Yeah, I
think so.
I just looked her up.
Yeah.
I shouldn't hate this lady. She's
I searched up Gangster Granny, and the handle is Ross Smith.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. That's the guy who they asked us.
Puppet master.
So he must use her for not use her. I mean, I'm sure it's mutually beneficial. Okay, but
yeah, I'll leave that up to the audience. I'm not going to comment on this one.
Let's talk about something maybe the audience will appreciate more. We bumped into another company, Spider. Do you know what I'm about to say? We were walking down the grid. I think it was Saturday before the O'Reilly race, and there was a pit box, and the top of the pit box didn't have a cover on it. It was one of the only open-air pit boxes I had ever seen, and on top of that pit box were some lovely young ladies who all of a sudden saw Spider in the distance. And they were like, hey. And so they invited us to take pictures with them. What was the name of their company?
I believe it's Cowboy Pillows.
Oh, yeah.
So you
Can
may
we
have seen...
overlay the picture on this, Owen, when you put this out? That's what I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
So it's like five or six smoke show girls. What the fuck do they sell?
I guess they sell merch.
Is Cowboy Pillows a reference to their boobs?
It's a reference to their boobs, and they sell like skimpy kind of female clothing, from what I've gathered.
God bless them.
Yeah, great to see him at the track.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a promo code to throw you guys, because I hope every one of these girls becomes multi-billionaires, to be honest, because they made my day. I wasn't feeling comfortable about the shirt I was wearing. She was like, oh, that shirt's great. And fuck it, now it's the number one in the arsenal.
There you go.
Welcome aboard, ladies. But it was a great time kind of being in and around the track. We were there on Saturday and Sunday. Great racing, getting to see all these guys. I'm starting to, know more of the faces in the O'Reilly garage.
Yeah.
And it's providing better racing right now than what we're seeing on Sunday.
I'll tell you one face you didn't recognize from the O'Reilly garage, Large, and that was Carson Quaffle.
You got him from 50 yards out. Oh, here comes Carson Quaffle. I was like, first of all, I still don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
Me neither.
Carson Quaffle or
it's
whatever.
It's a guess every time.
Yeah, every time I say it differently. And Spiders gets him at 50, 60 yards out, like coming towards
No
us.
fire suit on. Just plain clothes.
I also saw that kid who they called the upside down face. Remember a couple of weeks ago somebody had used them. Remember Family Guy or something has?
Yeah, I know the meme.
Yeah.
So but what did they say about NASCAR?
No, one of the kids who drives in O'Reilly somebody called him, "You look like the upside down face kid," and I don't know if that's going to stick, and I hope it doesn't. And that's why I'm not going about and saying his name, even though probably people all know it. But it's a fucking dead ringer, unfortunately. But it is what
I'm going to need to know that name after the pod here.
Yeah, let's talk about Kyle Busch. RCR, their first top 10 of the year. Austin Dillon was fast. Austin Dillon was fast this weekend, stayed up front, unfortunately got collected in that late crash with him and Eric Jones. Eric Jones also was having a hell of a race.
Yeah, he drove his ass off.
Yeah, the end of the final stage. But so Kyle Busch comes away with his first top 10 and RCR's first top 10 of the year. There's an announcement that Jim Pullman was pulled as his crew chief, and which was quick. He'd only been there for 10 races. I believe they took Jim from Allgaier's team last season and put him in there, and now RCR is actually, even though he didn't seem like he did a great job, and maybe it's not Pullman's fault, but it seems like he's getting an even better job. So congratulations to Jim for failing upward. I think that's a great way to go about it, and we'll see if this new guy can do anything. But KFB continues to be a frustrating person to talk about, because just last week he had said the top 3 people he hates is former champion Joey Logano, former champion Brad Keselowski, and a guy who has no fucking wins, Carson Hocevar, and then that guy comes in and pulls off a win the following week. Where are we now with Kyle Busch? Where are we now with Kyle Busch?
Unfortunately, I'm the same place I always am, and I feel like I've been unfairly critical of RCR so far this season, and maybe it is fair. I don't know. The reality of it is that I want more from them. I like Austin Dillon, and I've been a Kyle Busch fan for better part of a decade now. So he was like my driver before I knew the first thing about NASCAR was Kyle Busch, and that M&M car is iconic, and that's the Kyle Busch I fell in love with. So to see him far from that now, it sucks. It hurts. I wish we could have competitive. I wish we could see what Austin Dillon is at Richmond every week from RCR, and they were a threat to win week after week. And unfortunately, they're just not there. They're not one of the big 3 teams, and that's just the reality we have to live in. So I don't know for Kyle Busch, but I remain of the opinion it just stinks, and I wish it were better for him.
I was pumped for Austin because we were talking to Swanee before the race.
Yeah.
So I was pumped to have Austin, even if he didn't win the race, just kind of grab a top 5, because that's
sure.
the way he was running. He was a top 5 car at least all day, or that's how I had seen. But let me ask you something, because we're about to have the winner of the race come in, and we're very excited for Carson Hocevar. We're also excited that, Kyle Busch got his first top 10. Maybe that's a little bit momentum he can build off of.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you guys this question. With the big one involving 26 cars, most of those cars did get back out, but I think maybe there was like 12 DNFs. I'm not sure. And amongst the DNFs, amongst the people that were affected gravely by that crash were household names.
Yeah.
Like very good drivers. Does that cheapen Kyle Busch's top 10 or Carson Hocevar's win? Because he did it against 24 guys, or 28 guys instead of, I think there was 40 in the field. So he did it with 28 guys instead of 40 in the field. Like, does that cheapen it? Because I know NASCAR likes to throw asterisks on stuff.
I'm a half full kind of guy, but to me, I'm looking at this race thrilled of what happened. I came on here last week, and my entire gambling card was first time winners, whether it was Carson Hocevar or Front Row Motorsports. And those guys are the guys that shined here. And sure, this, God forbid, if this is Carson Hocevar's only win, will there be an asterisk? I think for sure, inevitably. And I'm not going to sit here and say I agree with it, or I'll be the one administering said asterisk. But I look at guys like Justin Haley, who have won at Daytona in their only Cup win, and they are kind of viewed differently now. So that is a real thing. To answer your question, Large, I don't see this hypothetical happening at all. I'm of the opinion Carson Hocevar is going to continue to win, and this win was the first of many. So by that metric, I don't think this is really something we have to talk about, and I don't think it cheapens it. At the end of the day, plate racing is a style of racing just like everything else. Does SVG winning cheapen his road course win? You see what I'm saying? You can apply this kind of criticism to every discipline that the NASCAR season goes to, whether it be, intermediate tracks, super speedways, etc. So some drivers shine in certain spots. This week, a lot of guys who don't typically shined, and I'm celebrating that, not cheapening it.
I would say, too, Spider, to your point, him surviving and not being caught up in the wreck indicates a certain degree of expertise, particularly with super speedway racing.
Absolutely.
If you were in a truncated field in a short track where you no longer have to climb through that many people in lap traffic, then that number becomes a palpable benefit to you.
Look at this, Large. Chastain, Cindric, Stenhouse, all finished in the top 10. Those are guys who are consistently ringers at super speedways. So sure, we could sit here and be like, oh, a big wreck, the big one impacted the result. The reality of it is that's going to happen Daytona, Talladega, year after year, inevitably, indefinitely. It's always been the case. It'll always be the case.
But it is difficult for people to look at the fact Josh Berry, Ty Gibbs following up the win, right? William Byron, Bubba, Blaney, Cole Custer, Joey Logano, and the best driver in the world, Kyle Larson, were all not there to compete for that win. Like that's a murderer's row. We're talking about an NFL team just from NFL guys. The people who did not finish, if you would have given me the field or the people who did not finish, it'd be very difficult for me not to have taken the people that did not finish. That's all that I'm saying. So sometimes when you look at the results, it's kind of staggering to see, like, Brad finished, 20 laps behind too. Like, everybody who got fucked by it got fucked hard.
Yeah. I think that's
what I
but
wanna
that's
say.
like, I think short term, like, you can look at it and be like, oh, here's all the names that were out. Like, down the road, it's like, oh, Hocevar won a super speedway and a lot of guys crashed and didn't finish the race, and then you'd just be like, oh yeah, that's like every super speedway.
Yeah,
like it's weird how it happened in so many at once, but like it's not that much different than like a wreck that had 10 guys and then we had 2 more that had 4 guys involved, and then it's like,
you know what, this would have been bad in my opinion. Like, this would have been a worthy discussion if someone like Daniel Dye or like Joey Gase or like one of these like field fillers won the race. Then I would hear conversations about it being like, or, if there was an egregious move made late in the race, kind of like back to Austin Dillon again, not trying to be critical. He did what he had to do. But like we saw at Richmond, that I would hear criticism regarding. This, to me, Carson Hocevar has been knocking on the door this entire season. It's not like he came out of left field. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I think like it does. You do have to keep all of that in consideration, and it's one of the reasons why we're about to talk to him. I'm not mentioning it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say to him, "Hey, does this cheapen your win?"
Right.
So I think your points are salient. So I'm taking that off the table. I'm not cheapening this win in any way.
Nobody. I don't know how to word it, but like nobody really earns their like win at Talladega. There's nobody that's like they were up in the front the whole time and held on to it and won. It's
right.
They're at the pole.
The way it is. There's a lot of like cheap wins, but it's like it's kind of who's there on the last lap making a risky move and gets it. Nobody's winning it because they dominate a race there.
I will say, for people who are critical of this race, as by the 55% who said it was a good race in Gluck's poll, or multiple people who are complaining about the quality of the racing itself, and they are blaming it all on the car. The little stage rejiggering that they did was fine, didn't cause. I don't know. It was totally fine, but it's definitely the car's fault to most. But even as we're watching from the balcony and we see like Hocevar and Buescher fighting for the lead, it was weird to watch where I was like, nobody else has a chance here. Unless those guys fuck up or they don't get, whoever gets the best push. But it wasn't like that traditional push, bump and run type thing. It seemed like those guys were the only 2 that had a shot. So maybe that does fuck up the viewing experience for people who aren't at the track 6 drinks deep at that time.
Yeah.
But either way, what do you think? So if you look at the top 10 here finishes, I think it's delicious. Obviously Hocevar P1, Chris Buescher getting a P2 is great. Alex Bowman having a P3 performance at Talladega, is particularly when there was some really big crashes, which I don't want this kid to be involved in. I don't want to crash all of a sudden triggering vertigo or anything. So I was just very, very happy for him. But when somebody had mentioned that to him afterwards, he'd said something that kind of scared me. He said, "I don't have many hits left in me." He's a young man, Alex Bowman.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't, like, I want to see this kid race for a very long time. He's 33 years old. And maybe he was just saying it tongue-in-cheek because nobody likes to be involved in the big ones. But unfortunately, because of his medical history, everyone tends to pick apart his thing. I'm hoping Bowman is 100% back.
Yeah.
And seeing him and Chase Elliott, P3, P4 was cool. Then having Zane Smith, Zane Smith 5. Yeah, Noah Gragson 9, and Todd Gilliland. All three of those guys in the top 11.
Yeah. You know who I feel for most in
too.
all of this is Ricky Stenhouse, who did finish 6th, and that's nothing to like sneeze at or discount. But if you watch the last 10%, the last 10% of the last lap, like Stenhouse, Chase Elliott took advantage of Ricky Stenhouse so beautifully. Like, you couldn't have drawn it up better.
Used him up.
Yeah, he used him up perfectly. He left him. He baited him into going to the outside and then shot to the middle and took his spot, and ultimately gained a couple spots and finished within the top 5. So, yeah, but I mean, even Stenhouse up there at the end is a testament to the fact that I think, this is just Talladega racing. And I thought it was a great weekend. Like you said, Large, the top 10, even the top 11, highlighted by some great drivers that, were looking for their first win and seemingly capitalized on that opportunity, whether they won the race or not.
I agree. All right, let's put a bow on the race. We have a couple of things to talk about afterwards. But before we get into that, why not talk to the race winner? So we're going to go 3 wide with Carson Hocevar. It's brought to you by Chili's. Chili's Big Crispy 3 for me. Chili's 3 for me serves up the Big Crispy, fries, bottomless chips and salsa, and a bottomless drink for just $10.99. Chili's Big Crispy 3 for me. The best $10.99 that you can eat. Tired of tiny, overpriced fast food chicken sandwiches? Of course you are. So head to Chili's for the Big Crispy 3 for me, served with fries, bottomless chips and salsa, and a bottomless drink for just $10.99. Isn't that great that we have this read here? I'm
it's
going to
perfect.
go there tonight. And it's going into a guy. No. I can't think of a better marriage between driver and sponsor.
I'm so happy that they
Carson and Chili's right now.
His first win coming in Chili's. Like, I know it's easy to get romantic about racing, but like,
sure.
I'm friendly with a lot of the people that put in a lot of effort behind the scenes in this Chili's activation, which, by the way, has been fantastic to see blossom and flourish. So yeah, literally, it like warmed my heart to see them win and celebrate this weekend.
So without further ado, let's go to the Talladente himself, Carson Hocevar. All right, so Carson, talk to me. We're so thrilled. Spider and I are so thrilled about this first win, as I know you are too, but we've been in your corner this whole goddamn time. We like to talk about disruptors in NASCAR. And sometimes when we talk about disruptors to the big 3, your Hendrick and your Joe Gibbs Racing and your Penske, we often mention Trackhouse as a disruptor. Spire is the disruptor right now. You guys have a team there together with Michael and Daniel that's differentiated, and now with you getting that first win off of your back, like that monkey off your back, you guys are downright fucking dangerous. How does it feel to go from one day being somebody who's on the up and coming to now being somebody that everyone is looking the fuck out for?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like, I remember the first meeting in 24 when I was, in the, rookie, and, Spire was just kind of getting going. They had the meeting. They just bought KBM. They've expanded, and they just kind of, were like, oh, we're going to win races and we're going to do this. And then, 25, it was like, oh, we're going to win races. And then, 26, it's like, oh, we're going to win races. You kind of have the preseason, talks and, whether it's the media or even internally, but, we really believed it. It was just going to take a little bit of time. So like, it's just good to finally like be there. Like you're not saying anymore. You don't have to say it. You don't have to answer any questions. You don't have to convince anybody what we believe anymore. Whether it's the, stakeholders or media or race fans or, bloodline, everybody within Spire knows that we were going to win a race, but, and win races and get rolling. But, convincing, others, isn't the same because they don't see what we all see. And, we didn't, not everybody's going to believe what we believe. And, I think it's just, that's why I think it's been so awesome to see the, response of it all. But I think that's how, why you saw every single Spire employee that was at the racetrack was in victory lane. I don't know if they remembered to, load up the 7 and 71 because I think every, crew member was just in victory lane.
That's
so
awesome.
That was so cool. And that's why they were so excited because, we've been saying it for, 3 years at our, pump up meetings and, that you saw all that emotion from everybody that they finally, have something to, celebrate.
Let's talk about the celebration as we're talking about celebrating, because I know that's one of the biggest headlines of the week. I had heard Noah Gragson and Chase Briscoe on Door Bumper Clear saying they wouldn't be able to do what you did afterwards because they're just not tall enough. I'm 6'5". You're an adorable 6'4". You're just a little guy as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't be able to do what you do because I'm old and I'm fat. But also, it seems like you must have the knees of a flamingo to try to get around the wheel to do that. What kind of kinks do you have to work out for the next win to make that thing as smooth as butter? Because everybody wants to see that celebration come back.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a minute to figure out that I couldn't drop the clutch with the wheel on. So I had to keep the wheel off, kind of shuffle around, kind of lean over to get my, leg to wrap around the leg board and everything and get down in there to, touch the throttle and touch the clutch, especially over to the left. That, that's why, that thing was turning left because all the camber and caster and whatever, it was turning left. And, then I had to shuffle and, kind of sit how I sat, when I was rolling and to get the wheel on. And then, once I had the wheel on and it was rolling, it just kind of rolled itself and I just kind of guided it and, it goes straight just fine and got to enjoy it and, live it up. Jeff Gordon texted me and, and congratulated me, but I think he was just texting me because he just wanted to know how I did it.
Right.
I asked and he's like, it was never an option for me to even consider it because I am, too short for that.
Yeah.
And he's like, I cannot wait to hear about, you doing it. So I'm just coming to the source.
So we spoke about Spire. We spoke about the celebration. We have to mention Chili's. I've said it before. I got catfished with that headline that you had bought a Chili's, and I said, this is amazing that this kid is doing this because he's cementing the relationship. I come from a sales background. The match made in heaven with you and Chili's is downright unbelievable, almost scary. But I wanted to go to Chili's after that win. Like, honestly, like you influenced me just with all the things. How positive has the feedback from that company been with you? Because it seems like not only are you guys business partners, you're almost close friends.
Yeah, I mean, so I met Aaron, who is a part of the Chili's program and everything, and a part of Chili's. I met her husband actually at the Talladega Boulevard on my rookie year of trucks, and had no idea that they were involved or whatever. And so when they did the deal with Spire, I showed up to the first appearance, which wasn't even for my car. I just needed to eat lunch. It was for Corey.
Free food.
7 when the 500, that was their first race together, and they had the picture of the boulevard with us and everything, and they're like, she's like, oh, you met my husband and everything, and so that relationship goes a lot deeper than just the sponsorship of it. They are fans, they've been fans since truck days almost, and we a lot of them were race fans that now are just attached to a brand that wanted to get involved in NASCAR and with us. So the fact we were able to do it at Talladega with that story that I tell all the time about how small circle the racing world is, and how funny of a coincidence that is to really do that at Talladega, which they were there for because they don't want to miss Talladega by any means. They just went as fans already.
Sure.
But they were there in victory lane, and about 5 years ago they were just at the boulevard with a truck kid that had no sponsors on the truck that day, and just happened to meet him. And I said I was a driver, and the only reason I was there was we were throwing a football, and it actually went in their campsite, and we stayed there for 30 minutes.
Yeah, and it was a marriage made in heaven since then. How does this screw around with the rest of the season for you? Because we've come accustomed to you being a somewhat aggressive driver, and I think I'm understating it to a degree. But now that you're up there in points, and I know we're very early in the season, but is it changing what you want to do for the rest of the season? Or is it just Carson Hocevar for the rest of time, put the pedal down and let's see what happens?
Yeah, I don't know how to go slower or relax. So I just like racing, and I like enjoying it, and taking advantage of every opportunity that I see, or gap or hole, or whatever. And yeah, I just feel like I'm doing a disservice to myself if I have to slow down at all, and mind my P's and Q's a little bit per se, or get too conservative. More is a better way of putting it. I don't want to wreck anybody. That always tends to sometimes come back, but I want to find a way to get around them by all means necessary, and run up front and win more races.
As we head down to Texas this weekend, we saw, like last week, I almost bet against Ty Gibbs, because once you get that monkey off your back, you sort of have that letdown race. What are you going to do to keep this momentum going as we go? Can you break down Texas for me real quick, and what we can expect to see generally racing, and what we can expect to see from Carson Hocevar?
Well, I mean, we qualified on the pole there last year. We ran up front all day. I won my first ever truck race there. So if there was ever a race for me to go to right after a win, this one would be pretty high. Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good about it. The two ends are different. It's super difficult to pass, but it always tends to flip the field through strategy and stages. And it's one that if you win, you had to put the whole race together, between, when it's time for no tires or 2 tires or 4. And it's, you got to be brave in 3 and 4. That bump's pretty sketchy. So if you're going to stay in the throttle and try to pass anybody on the top, you got to be pretty brave to be able to do that. And, have your hands pretty tight on the wheel to be able to hold on to it if it does snap.
Are you doing double duty or triple duty this weekend?
Just double.
Okay, so we're doing trucks on Friday, and then Cup Series on Sunday, and try to make it 2 in a row. If Tyler Reddick can go and do 3 in a row, there's no fucking reason you can't make it 2 in a row. Listen, again, we're gushing with happiness as far as for you, for your brand, and for your team. Thank you so much for carving out time. I know you're part of a bigger media car wash today. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll see you at the track real soon.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
You're the best, Carson. Have a good one. All right, so that was Carson Hocevar. I love the fact, is this going to change you at all this season, Carson? Do you have to become a little bit less aggressive? And him just to simply say, I don't know how to go slow.
You love to hear that from a driver.
I love that shit. I mean, I didn't even mention the fact that he was in rarefied air with Kyle Busch, saying he's one of 3 people that he hates, just because I didn't want to put salt in the wound with Kyle. But I'm happy for this kid. And to your point, Spider, I don't think this is a drop in a bucket.
No.
I don't think this is Carson Hocevar is going to end his career with 2 career wins, both on super speedways, or something like that. I think we're dealing with somebody who is ready to carve his name into NASCAR, like a legacy at least. Yeah. I'm not saying he'll be one of the all-time greats, but he's certainly going to be very good.
I think he gained a lot of fans this weekend.
Well, that's the other thing I'll
place
say.
went bananas. Go ahead, Spider.
That's the other thing I'll say. Like, I wore my Chili's hat in the Birmingham airport yesterday. The amount of people that came up to me and congratulated me as if I was turning a wrench on the 77 car was second to none. Even people that seemingly didn't know anything about NASCAR, guys dressed in business attire, were like, congrats, or great job. I have a lot of friends outside of NASCAR that are reaching out and being like, great to see the Chili's car win. To me, this is one of those moments we get a couple a year that kind of break the barrier and reach and break through to the wider net of sports fans. And this is one of those moments. So I think it's a testament to what Chili's is doing. They've invested heavily in the sport. They seemingly have the best ambassador you could want. And he's, equally as good of a driver. So home run. And to be a small part of it is very rewarding.
He's just always had mixed sentiment. Some people have loved him the whole time. Some people have hated him. It felt like after this race, nobody's mad at the guy that everyone else is fuel saving and he's trying to pass. Like,
Yeah.
everyone loves that. Like the celebration at the end. Everyone like I think there are a lot of people that joined the bandwagon of like, this guy's nothing but good for NASCAR.
For sure.
Even he can be a little reckless, but like maybe we need a little more recklessness than like the guys that are going 20 miles per hour less than they could be on the straightaway. Like I think a lot of people turned into fans this weekend of him.
And I think, too, if you look at some of the new eyes in the sport, I'll be extremely specific with what I mean. If you look at some of the guys like who are following Cletus into the sport, and they start following the Cup Series now a little bit more to see what their Lord and Savior Cletus will eventually be into, they're in love with this guy, too.
Yeah.
Like these, you're talking about two guys, you're talking about NASCAR now having... First and foremost, the Cowboy Pillow Girls. We can't understate their effect on the sport. But all these other people that we're talking about, like Jason Kelsey and Marshawn Lynch, all that stuff, you got like Michael Jordan, right? And then this social media phenomenon, Cletus, and then on top of it, you have a young kid like Carson Hocevar. You also have a young kid like Ty Gibbs who can easily play that villain role. Right? Because, his grandfather owns this stuff. Like, these are storylines that will be dragging people. And the victory celebration is the biggest clip that we got since Chastain rode the wall.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's the biggest.
The other thing I'll say, it's one thing to do numbers with like a racing highlight on, our own social media, on the Rubbin is Racing main Twitter page or whatever, Instagram. To go on the Barstool main page and simultaneously have that same kind of performance on there is a testament to how big this story is to me. So I couldn't be happier. And I think, it's a testament to kind of like what you guys are saying, that this win means more.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We're going to see a couple of familiar faces in the truck series. I'm kind of happy about it. Clint Bowyer and Jamie McMurray to drive truck races for Colic Racing. Boyer's a 10-time Cup winner and longtime fan favorite. Also former co-host of Rubbin is Racing back when it used to be him and some guy named Dave Portnoy. He'll drive the Ram at Dover on May 15th. And then Jamie McMurray is a 7-time winner, 2010 Daytona 500 champion. He'll take the wheel at the Naval Base Coronado Street Course in San Diego on June 19th.
Awesome.
That's kind of cool,
it's
right?
So
like
sweet.
Seeing Clint. We got to get Clint on the show
we'll
again.
We'll have to, for sure. And I know we have Tony upcoming here, but I asked Tony in our interview, which you guys are going to hear in a couple minutes, if he had any advice, what would he give to Jamie and Clint? So make sure you stick around and listen for that.
Oh, that's cool as shit. Finally, we had talked about the celebration that Carson Hocevar had, and you had heard me talking about it with Carson just a couple of minutes ago. Thank God NASCAR didn't clutch pearls.
Yeah. And
give this guy a slap on the wrist or anything. Like, maybe there's stuff, and Carson had said about stuff that he could do differently next time, but I'm so glad that NASCAR is. And part of it, I think, is due to Steve O'Donnell. Like, Steve O'Donnell stepping up into this new, big boss role. I'm hoping he can make some changes because he's saying all the right things on, like, Door Bumper Clear. We're going to try and have him on the show next week. I put in an ask for him. So I'd love to have him come down because a lot of people are like, yeah, he seems like he gets it. And they're making changes that seem like they're listening to tweets and everything. But can he ever make real change when, 50 some odd % is still in the hands of one man? Like, does he still answer to that guy behind the curtain, in the France family? Or can he actually start to enact stuff that NASCAR fans want to see happen? How do you feel about him, and what do you think about Steve O'Donnell, knowing that we're going to have him on next week too, so we'll be able to get it from the horse's mouth?
Large, I personally love Steve O'Donnell. I think this is a great move. I like that we're getting some young, fresh blood in there. And I think it's also, we never really talked about Steve Phelps' departure. And one thing I'll say on this that I kind of neglected to say earlier is whether it be Steve Phelps or Steve O'Donnell, as a fan who's been to a bunch of races, it's not lost on me that those guys are there every time, or they were there every time. When you go to the track, there's a good chance you were seeing Steve Phelps, or you're going to see Steve O'Donnell, and I think that's wildly important. You go to these other sports leagues, and Roger Goodell might be there for one game a year, whatever it may be, but it seems like a much less visible face of the organization. And I'm personally a big fan of this move, and I'm going to also ask Tony Stewart on this, and I will say that everyone's entitled to their own opinion, as are you, the listener. But from where I sit, I'm happy about this. I think this is great. Fresh, young blood, new energy, and I understand that he's been there, but someone else at the wheel, I think, is a step in the right direction, and I welcome what Steve will bring to the sport.
That's where I'm always bad with all the NASCAR. Has he not and I don't think I'm getting him mixed up with Steve Phelps. Has he not already been at the top of NASCAR?
The NASCAR titles are very fluid. It's almost like Barstool in the sense where I feel like.
So what was he before and what is he now?
So he's the CEO now. He was
what?
He
was the president of NASCAR, a title he took in March of 2025. He was promoted to president of NASCAR.
And now he's the CEO of NASCAR.
Right. And in March 2022, he was named the chief operating officer of NASCAR. So he's been there a long time. He's held a bunch of titles. I'm a fan of his, and, I'm welcoming what he will bring to the sport. I know a lot of people seemingly just look for things to get mad at, and I don't think this is one of them. They're giving the people a change. What fans have been bitching and complaining and moaning about for how long? Now that day has finally come. To me, if you're still complaining, I don't know.
Well, I will tell you then, Quiggs, 2014, he became Chief Racing Development Officer.
Okay.
So he was credited with the NASCAR playoff system in the top 3 series, which people did not like, as we know. And he also was the creation of stage racing in 2017. And he was also the development of the next-gen car in 2022. So from that part of the resume, it seems like he created a lot of stuff that people aren't crazy about right now, as anyone would have done if they were in that. Then he was promoted to Chief Operating Officer, COO, which is now Ben, right, I believe?
That I can't confirm.
Yeah.
But Ben Kennedy also got promoted in this news.
I think he's now Chief Operating Officer, Ben Kennedy. And then O'Donnell in 2025 became president. And in 2026, obviously with this headline, he became CEO, the first non-France family member to hold that position in NASCAR. So the idea behind what's the difference is the CEO used to be able to do whatever the hell they want. They were the buck stopped there. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why it was a definitive buck stopping there is because they had majority ownership. So now the CEO doesn't technically have majority ownership, but he does have that buck stops here position. And hopefully he can do something to make either fix some of the stuff that he had implemented, back in the day, or be able to answer some of the stuff that NASCAR fans are clamoring for. But Spider, if you're saying that you got to take on it from our guy Tony Stewart, then I don't think there's any reason to wait any longer. Let's go 3 wide again. This time it's Spider and Tony Stewart, and it's brought to you by Jose Cuervo. From the first lap till the checkered flag, there's only one choice. Winning on race day is all about momentum, and nothing matches the energy, excitement, and adrenaline quite like Cuervo. Whether you're at home, in the infield, or taking over the tailgate, Cuervo is the winning move that elevates any race into an occasion you'll remember. So no matter who's in victory lane, you can win every race day from the first lap to the checkered flag. Keep it Cuervo. And thank you again, Cuervo, for being such a great host this weekend and your continued support of this podcast. And without further ado, here's Spider and Smoke.
Boogity, boogity, welcome back to Rubbin is Racing. Pumped to be joined alongside Tony Stewart. Tony, how we doing?
I'm good, man. We were just talking about your hand clapping skills, and pretty solid here. I mean, I think you're crew chief material here.
I appreciate that. I'm happy to do it. If anyone's in need of a crew chief, just get in touch. You got a lot going on as per usual, including you were just on Mostly Sports, and you're in town doing some promo for NHRA drag racing. How's everything going on that side to start?
Really well, actually. It's kind of a wild season from the standpoint of what happened and more in the off season than really what's happened on track. So my wife Leah took the last 2 years off to start a family.
Congratulations, Dominic.
So Dom's 17 months old now, and in the midst of all this, at the end of the year last year, the team that I own, the car that she drives, I got fired from. So I got fired from driving duties from my own team, and she took her car back, and so she's driving again. I realized a long time ago I'm much happier being a driver than a spectator, and as much as I love being a car owner, I still like driving better.
Yeah.
So I defected, and we call this the reverse Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Yeah.
Where I I own teams now, but left my team to go drive for somebody else, where Dale was driving for Richard Childress and then built DEI and had his 3 teams.
Yeah, I mean, you're in great company. I mean, it's like you, Dale Earnhardt, and Denny Hamlin in terms of guys that have done that. First of all, what does it mean to be in that category of 3, great drivers? And then 2, following up, in the driving you've done of yourself, you've driven for some of the best team owners in the sport, whether it be, Coach Gibbs or Chip Ganassi, whoever. Is there something that you've taken away from driving from those owners that you now implement as an owner yourself?
Absolutely. I mean, 2 of the best owners in motorsports between Chip and Coach Gibbs. So, it's definitely unique. It's not a scenario that we even knew 2 years ago that was going to be a possibility or something that was even on the radar. But to sit there and have our 2 teams and be in a different form of motorsports than what I was used to was a big change for me. Very exciting change, but you don't normally see, and there's the great thing about NHRA is you have a lot of female racers, which is really cool.
Yeah.
We're in a small category of people that have spouses racing against each other. You have Jim and Annie Whiteley in one of the sportsman classes. You have Matt and Angie Smith that race against each other in pro stock bike, and Lee and I. So it's kind of a unique deal. We don't know 100%, and we're hoping NHRA is going to help us get to the bottom of this, but we think we are the fastest couple in motorsports right now.
I love that.
So,
what a tagline. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Drag racing to me is so cool, and obviously I'm, mainly a stock car racing guy, but I do absolutely appreciate what you've got going on. To me, it's just really fascinating, like you said, how diverse the driver fields are, whether it be, husband and wife, females included. And then you even have people racing long past they would be racing on the stock car side. So I guess my question for you is, have you given any thought into how long you want to be drag racing for? And is this something that you can do for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, and I still race stuff outside of NHRA. I mean, I run a 3/4 midget on dirt. My dad's 88 years old, which is unheard of to be driving at his age, and he's still racing. That's part of the reason I still race a 3/4 midget, so I can race with my dad a couple times a year. We had an off weekend before Pomona, and I went and ran and won in a Porsche 911 GT3 car. I was racing with Boris Said, and so that was kind of neat to do something a little different again. And here we are in my mid 50s, and I'm still driving cars and winning races in cars that I've never driven before. So I don't know what that's going to look like, honestly. And honestly, I feel like it's really going to be, I feel like mentally it's going to be a situation where physically my body's going to tell me, hey, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's I have a lot of back pain. I've broke my back 4 times. We've had injuries in racing that, after a while it adds up and keeps building up. And, I'm like Dale Jr. We've had enough concussions. I have memory issues. There's a lot of things that we fight physically that will probably be that determining factor of what's that end date for us from driving.
And I know this is a hypothetical, but when that time comes, do you see yourself being a team owner long after you hang it up from driving and the drag racing side? Is this something you want to do for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, that started when I left Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, that was part of the reason that I left Joe. It wasn't because I was unhappy with Coach or JGR. I mean, I was extremely happy driving for him and with our team, but I had a unique opportunity to be him. And, after his football career ended, he was an owner in NASCAR. And so, for me, there's going to be a point in your time in your life when, there's going to be that day you wake up and go, I'm done. I'm ready to hang it up. But you don't want to leave the sport. So having the opportunity to participate as an owner, and especially a unique situation that I have is that my wife drives a race car. And so for her to drive a car that I own, we get to do it as a family. We get to bring our son to the races each week. That is something that is a really cool situation for us. So the day that, whatever that day is that I hang it up as a driver, we're still going to be racing in some capacity.
What was that discussion like between you and Leah when you took her car and then ultimately had to give it back? Was it as simple as just kind of like what makes the most sense, or was there, a difficult conversation there? I mean, it resulted in you having a new team you're driving for this year, which is equally as exciting, but I would imagine that transition was a little bit difficult.
Yeah, the conversation was much more fun about me driving the car for her than it was for me getting fired from my own team and giving her the keys back. Yeah. So it's, I mean, obviously, you know, you think about what it is for a male to be a race car driver. I mean, we can go drive any day of the week. For what my wife has went through as a woman and starting a family, having to be pregnant, carry a child, deliver a child, now she's the one that is running the show and you know, taking care of a 17-month-old, a 54-year-old husband that she has to treat like a child sometimes. She has a lot on her plate, and for her to even have the desire to come back and want to get back in a race car, I think is phenomenal. You don't normally see that in motorsports, but I'm proud of my wife for that. We honestly knew from the beginning that I was just the fill-in driver.
Yeah, you were the substitute.
Ready. We didn't know how long. We didn't know if she was going to want to come back the next year.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it ended up being 2 years. She wanted to make sure she got used to being a mom, and we were making sure we were doing everything to make sure we were doing the right things for Dominic. So she decided to take that second year off. But about July or August, I started seeing a change in demeanor at the racetrack, and I'm like, she hasn't said a word, and I already know what's coming at the end of the year. So I was prepared, but I will say this too: as much as she was excited about coming back, she cared about me as her spouse enough to sit there and go, I know you're not going to just want to sit and watch. And she was very instrumental in working with myself and Richard Freeman from Elite Motorsports and helping us get this side of it up and going. Richard's been a great car owner in the pro stock category. Has 6-time world champion Erica Enders, Greg Stanfield, Aaron Stanfield, Jed Coughlin, Troy Coughlin Jr., Stephen Bell. All three Quadra brothers drive pro stock cars for this guy. So this year was his first year coming into the nitro classes with a Top Fuel
and
dragster.
It seems to be going pretty well. I mean, you guys got a win on your third event with the new team at Pomona, which from what I understand is one of the crown jewels of the sport. Last season, unbelievable championship run. Again, I know that was for a different team. But what is the limit for Elite this year with you driving and already one win under the belt early on the season?
You know, the great thing is leaving Charlotte, we moved from 5th to 4th in points. The driver in front of us in points is only 3 points ahead of us, and I know that person really well. Unfortunately, that's my wife. So, but you know, I think it's great. I mean, to start a new program, we've got veteran crew chiefs. Even though it's a new program, we have the right people, we have the right pieces, parts in place. It's just a matter of timing of when is this really going to come together. The holdup really is. And I shouldn't even call it a holdup, but it's kind of a learning curve for the two crew chiefs. Like I said, they're veteran crew chiefs. They have a lot of accomplishments and awards and championships under their belt. But the car and the pieces and parts, it's a new package than what they've ran in the past. So they're kind of going through a learning curve of trying to understand what this car really wants as far as the tune-up, what we do with clutch application and timing and all the variables that go into making a drag car go down the racetrack. They're going through some growing pains with that, and it's just going to be a matter of time. But like you said, to sit there and go out in our third race of the season and win a race, it's like we knew the ingredients were there. We just didn't know it was going to click that early.
Yeah.
So, but drag racing is a very humbling sport versus NASCAR and IndyCar. You can be on top one week, and the next week you can stub your toe. And we had 4 qualifying rounds at Charlotte. The first 3 runs, those first 3 rounds of qualifying, we didn't even make it down the racetrack, without having a problem and having to shut it off. Made it in on the last run, got qualified in, but battled through on race day on Sunday and got to the finals. So I'm really proud of this team. I do legitimately feel like after our win in Pomona, and especially after Charlotte, not because we did well, but more so because we struggled to get to the end of the weekend and get to the finals. I do feel like this team has the capability to run for a championship. I mean, the ingredients are there. We'll get strong. I feel like we will get stronger as the year goes on. Once these crew chiefs start getting a better handle of what this car wants, I feel like we're just going to go forward.
Yeah, well, thank you for contributing to the awesome drag racing storylines, between dating or married to your competition or, just new teams, whatever it is, there's a lot to follow, and obviously your ownership as well. But I'm equally as intrigued by your ownership on the high limit side. I know you field a car with Rico Abreu, who's one of my favorite drivers. Cool, good friend of mine. I've gotten to meet him at Las Vegas at the first sprint car race I went to earlier this year. Is there one that's more rewarding, whether it be your ownership of the drag racing or the high limit, or are you just happy to kind of have your hands in a lot of different racing disciplines?
Yeah, I like having my hands in everything. I mean, we still have our racetrack in Ohio, Eldora Speedway, and Rico races there a couple times a year. So it's something that I'm proud that I never forgot where I came from. And, you know, I came from the sprint car ranks and the open wheel dirt track ranks. And so I've had TSR, we celebrated our 25th anniversary as a team last year. So to be in the sport that long as an owner and know that we're still contributing, giving back to short track racing and being a part of it, that's something that is in my heart and something that's real important to me. So like you say, one of these days I'm going to hang up the helmet officially as a driver, but you know, we're going to have Eldora, we're going to have a sprint car team, we're going to have our hands in racing in a big way.
That's awesome. And speaking of having your hands in a bunch of things, one thing I was pumped to see this year was your inclusion in the truck series, in the Ram Race for the Seat. Can you talk to me about how that opportunity came about? And I know at the end of the race you said never say never regarding future opportunities, but I guess has there been any other discussions about potential opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tim Kaniskis, who is the president of Stellantis, which is the parent company for both Dodge and Ram. They're both separate companies, but the parent company is Stellantis, and Tim runs all that. Tim asked me at an event last year if I would be interested in running a truck race. And, you know, in the back of my head, I was like, you know, it'd be fun. You know, I always kept saying, man, it'd be fun to go to this track and run a race again. And so when Tim asked me, I said, yeah, I think I'd be interested in doing a one-off race like that. But Tim's very cagey and smart. And when we got to Daytona and I saw him there, he's like, so when's the next one? And I just started laughing. I said I'd do one. But I think you will see us run another truck race next year. I don't know where yet. And there's a possibility a good friend of mine that might be a retired driver as well may want to come back and do one on the same race. So
it's not one of these drivers that has already been named for a Ram seat this year, is it?
No, not at all.
If you had a piece of advice for Jamie McMurray or Clint Boyer, who are the most recent Ram hired drivers who have been, you know, not racing for a little bit of time now, getting back into the car, what would your piece of advice be for those guys?
Well, I think especially when it comes to Clint, I mean, he's up in the booth every week. I mean, he has got his pulse on everything NASCAR.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows what's going on in the Truck Series. He knows what's going on in the O'Reilly Series and the Cup Series. So he's well-versed on what's going on and what the trends are and what's going on in the garage area. So I don't think you have to tell him much. I think it's very similar for Jamie as well. Jamie is kind of at arm's reach from it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But he's still active in it. He still knows what's going on. And I can tell you it took a lap, and I remembered exactly what to do behind the steering wheel of that car, and it'll be the same for Clinton and Jamie as well.
Yeah, well, it certainly will be fun to watch, and I love what Ram's doing, getting guys like yourself or Jamie or Clint back in the seat. So
it's going to be fun because, you know, actually I'm leaving here today. I'm going to a different place that has a cup track, and I get to shoot a commercial shoot with Tim Kaniskis tomorrow with the Ram truck. So
that'll be awesome.
The fans will get a chance to see some of that coming out in the future. And yeah, I'm as much as I said I'm never going back to NASCAR. I don't want anything to do with it. I thoroughly enjoyed running the truck race. I didn't own the vehicle, didn't have to do all the rigmarole, just literally got to show up and race. So
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that. I told Tim I was definitely going to do another one, and I know tomorrow when we're at the commercial shoot, he's going to ask me about it. So he doesn't know that I'm going to commit to a race next year, so he'll be excited about that.
That will be awesome. I mean, yeah, it's been awesome to watch what Ram has been doing, and I love, obviously, your inclusion as well because, like you said, we're back in NASCAR. But speaking of NASCAR, there was a recent CEO change, and I wanted to know if you think that will do any difference to what's going on in the NASCAR world, if that will improve things, and where you stand on all of it.
They need to make another CEO change, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In all reality. Yeah, they've, you know, obviously Steve Phelps stepped down. Jim stepped down now. You know, they both were great for the sport, but, you know, obviously there were there were a lot of things that came out during the lawsuit that showed people's true colors, and it showed some. It didn't show all of them, but even in Steve's case here, it's in the new Steve's case.
Yeah,
he probably needs to be the next one.
Yeah. So, well, I'm curious to know if NASCAR went a different approach and they were like, let's do a kind of panel of veteran drivers that we can use as consultants to help get NASCAR back to where we think it should be. Is that a job that you would potentially entertain helping with, or is that something you want nothing to do with?
I'm going to say no, and there's a reason for it. Years ago, and this was probably 2014, maybe 2015, there were 20 of us drivers that were from all the manufacturers. We represented every manufacturer. We represented, I believe, every car owner in the Cup Series, and we were all united on, we picked 5 things that we said we thought would make it better, and literally went into a meeting with all the bigwigs at NASCAR and presented that to them, and they basically shot down all 5 things that we said. Yeah. And basically acted like none of us knew what the hell we were talking about. And that was the moment when I left that meeting. That is the moment that I decided that I was working on a retirement plan. I said, when the guys that are driving these cars and know what's going on behind the steering wheel know more than the guys that are making the decisions, and that's the way we got treated in that meeting, I said, there's no point in working with these guys. So even if they put something together now, there's a group of drivers that would be more than happy to do that. I am just not one of them.
Fair enough.
They sealed the deal with
me
a long time ago. They had their opportunity.
Yes. Yeah, fair enough. One thing I always ask drivers when they come on our show is if there's a favorite trophy of theirs, and then if there's a trophy that's kind of evaded them that they think is really cool that they couldn't have in their trophy case. I recently asked this to Cletus McFarland, who came on our show, and I was not actually surprised because it makes total sense. The trophy you won at Atlanta, I believe in like 2006, the Giant Bear Trophy. Yeah. You know which one I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
He said that was his personal favorite, and if he could have any NASCAR trophy, he would like to have that in his collection. So now I want to ask you, is there one that evaded you during your career that you've always wanted that you don't have? And then is there one that you're like most proud of that you personally think is the coolest of your collection? Because I'm of the opinion NASCAR has the coolest trophies.
They do, actually. I mean, I still have my grandfather clock from Martinsville, which, when you're in your 20s and you're a race car driver, nobody wants to talk about having a grandfather clock, but it's a
they'd
cool
rather have the
trophy.
sword, right?
Yeah, but it's a cool trophy, and it's so historic to Martinsville Speedway. I mean, obviously, I never won the Daytona 500. That Harley J. Earl trophy is one that I would love to have. But it's funny you mentioned the Bass Pro Shop trophy that was the big Giant Bear, because the year before, my teammate Bobby Labonte won the Bass Pro Shop race, and it was this giant largemouth bass that was in brass like that. And I told Johnny at the race, I'm like, I want to win this thing so bad, and didn't win the race, and my teammate won it. And I was so excited for Bobby because I'm like, dude, this is the coolest trophy I've ever seen. And then the next year we go win the race, and the trophy is like 9 feet tall. It is absurd and insane. And it is in my log home in Indiana. It is in the entryway of the house because it's the only spot tall enough to put that thing. We couldn't put it in the basement with all the racing stuff because the ceiling's not high enough. But yeah, it sits beside a staircase, and when you're going up the staircase, you look at it. It's
just a focal point of the house. I mean, perfectly, it fits in perfect with the vibe. I mean, I know your house, we were watching it on Mostly Sports there as they pulled it up, just unbelievable setup. So yeah, it seems perfect in there. But I think that's pretty much all I had for you, Tony. I'm super excited to watch the rest of your season on the drag racing side, particularly the 75th anniversary of NHRA. Yes. So a lot to be excited for, whether it be the drama that you outlined, the transition to the new team, or you in pursuit of your championship. So we'll be rooting for you. Hopefully, me and a couple Barstool coworkers can make the trip down to Joliet and come celebrate and watch this race firsthand. But
I'm telling you, if you do that, I will promise you that somebody high up in NHRA will take you down to the starting line and have you within 15 feet of the car when we hit the gas. You will get an experience that nobody gets access
Sign
to.
me up.
We will put you in a spot and give you a memory you will never forget going to a drag race.
Even our producer Owen's getting giddy behind the camera there.
You're in, bud.
Yeah.
We got you dialed in. It's a phone call away.
Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, I've experienced the high limit stuff, which was cool to hang out with Rico earlier this year. The one thing I haven't done is NHRA, and we've now talked about it at length twice.
I am telling you, when you go, you will be going, why did it take me so long to finally go to one? It's been the coolest thing the last 2 seasons, being at the racetrack and seeing NASCAR fans that have followed us over there just to check it out. And I always tell them early in the day, I'm like, at the end of the day, before you leave, come by and tell me what you thought. The number one most common response was, we had no idea.
Yeah.
And you see the look on their face when they tell you that, and they're like, TV doesn't do it justice, for sure. When you can be there and when you're feeling 12,000 horsepower cars hit the gas and you feel the vibration and the concussion from it and you smell the nitromethane fumes, it is an experience that you cannot get at a NASCAR, an IndyCar race, a sports car race, a sprint car race. It's just a unique experience of its own.
Talk to me about the next NHRA race we have upcoming. What's your next event? Where's it going down? And what are the storylines?
So we run Valdosta, Georgia this week. So it's a new track to me. I know Leah's raced there in the past, Matt Hagan, that drives our funny car, and he won the 1,000th funny car race in NHRA history.
Wow.
At Pomona 2 events ago. So that was a milestone win. He's raced there as well. So for us to go there, that's a unique track for us. And then we have a week off, and we get to come back up here to Joliet, which has a special place in my heart because we're the defending champion of that race. So really looking forward to coming back here. And it was a wild year last year when we came back for Joliet on Saturday. We had our last round of qualifying and had a dust storm that came through.
Yeah.
So was a wild weekend at Joliet, but a cool racetrack and a cool place to go watch NHRA.
Awesome. Well, the weather has been crazy in Chicago recently. Hopefully it holds up for our upcoming Joliet race here where Owen and I can attend. But thank you so much, Tony. Always a pleasure having you on. Maybe we can turn this into like an annual tradition at this point. But anytime you're in town or have an event going on at Joliet, open invite to come join us at the Barstool HQ.
Always. It's you cannot have a boring day here.
Cannot.
You're going to be busy, but you are going to have a blast all day while you're here.
That's
so
right.
I definitely look forward to coming back.
Thanks so much, Tony.
Thank you.
All right, so Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart, a friend of the show now?
You know what, Large? He gave me his personal phone number at the conclusion of our interview, and he actually just texted me. And yeah, I hope so. You know, Tony has now come in 3 years straight.
He's in this office kind of frequent.
He is, and you know, he like even today I was like, "Do you want a tour?" And he's like, "I know my way around this place." But no, it's great. It's great. It's cool to have recurring friends that you meet in the space. It felt like last season was Ryan Blaney. This season might be Tony Stewart. I mean, I already invited him back ahead of the Joliet race, so good to have Tony around. Always cool to see him in the Ram race for the seat activations earlier this year.
Fucking awesome.
Always good to speak to him. So yeah, I told him open invite anytime he wants to come back, and hopefully I can get out to the NHRA event here in Joliet in a couple weeks.
That's awesome. All right, so we haven't seen the trucks in a couple of weeks. They're back. We have a full lineup this weekend down at Texas Motor Speedway, starting with the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Speedy Cash 250, which will be going down Friday. I think the start time they have here is 4:28. A couple of names that you're going to see in this field, including Brandon Jones, William Sawalich, Kyle Busch will be wheeling the number 7 for Spire Motorsports. Ross Chastain will be in the 45 for Nice Motorsports. And it's somebody named Carson Hocevar will also be wheeling the Spire Motorsports, but this time the 77 Chilli's Ride the Dente truck. So I kind of like the fact, I actually spoke to Carson about it, obviously, just before, not pulling triple duty, but doing double duty. He's really looking forward to being back in a truck. And then followed up by the Andy's Frozen Custard 340 for the NASCAR O'Reilly Parts Series on Saturday. Connor Zilic will be in the 1 car. Austin Dillon will be in the 3 car in that race. And Kyle Larson will be wheeling the 88 for Junior Motorsports. And the piece de resistance of the weekend, as always, will be the Cup Series race at Texas Motor Speedway. And that's the Worth 400, which will be Sunday. May 3rd, 3:30 p.m. is when your coverage starts. You'll get it on FS1. And if you just listen back to Carson Hocevar, I thought he did an expert breakdown of what we can expect from that track and beyond. So without anything else, all we have to do is try to pick some winners. I was unable to do it last week. Everybody on my card was involved in the big one at Talladega. Like, Spider's like, did you see that? I'm like, did I see that? That just blew up my fucking card. But either way, Picking the Tires brought to you by DraftKings. NASCAR season is in full swing, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of NASCAR, has a new customer offer. When the engines fire and the green flag drops, the best drivers in the world show you exactly what they're made of. Contenders separate from the field lap by lap, and DraftKings keeps the action going with a new customer offer every race day, from the short tracks all the way to the super speedways. Bet driver props, bet live, from the green flag to the checkered flag. Every position battle, every pit strategy, every late race restart matters. And new DraftKings customers bet just $5 and you get $100 in bonus bets instantly. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code Rubbin so you're ready for the moment. That's code Rubbin. Turn $5 into $100 in bonus bets instantly. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. How you guys looking this week? I have my guys all ready if you want me to go first. Otherwise, I will go back in rotation.
Go ahead, Large. You start us off.
All right, so like DraftKings had just mentioned in the read that I just said, how they do offer more than just top fives, winners, and whatnot. I hit a couple of them this week. So for top Ford, I have Chris Buescher. I have Chris Buescher over Joe Logano or Ryan Blaney, because Chris Buescher plus 500 as the top Ford, and I like the way that he's running lately. Top Toyota, I have Denny Hamlin. Oh, excuse me. No, I didn't take Denny Hamlin. I took Buescher instead. So Buescher's the top Ford. Then I have Ty Gibbs as a top 5 finish at plus 235. Ty Gibbs comes back, gets top 5. And I have Kyle Larson as the race winner at plus 600. Kyle Larson needs a win. He doesn't need a win, obviously. He's still great. And then I took Corey Heim, plus 400 for a top 10 finish. So I have a winner, top 5, top 10, and best Ford this week. That's it for me. I'm sorry it was a little bit jumbled, but I read it upside down. What do you guys got?
I only have 2 picks for this week, so I'm happy to go quick, and that leads me to believe that Quiggs and I might have the same play.
What, did you do some research on these?
I did.
That I think I know one of your guys just based off how you do your research. Is Brad K on that?
It's actually not Brad K.
Oh, okay.
So
you go ahead.
All right, I'm going to start with a guy that I actually love this weekend, and he's coming off. We complimented him earlier on the show, Large. Eric Jones is the 3rd best driver in average finish at Texas of all the active drivers, with an average finish of 11.8. That's better than Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and everyone aside from Tyler Reddick and William Byron. I like Eric Jones, a juicy plus 550 for a top 10 for
really?
Eric Jones this week. And I would implore everyone, if you guys, even you listening to me right now in this room, put that in now, because I don't think that'll be the case. I think the odds will be shorter come race time. Outside of that, I have one outright pick. And this is a guy somehow I have not taken. I don't think I've taken it all this season. I'm going Tyler Reddick plus 600. He is P1 in the highest average finish at Texas in the NASCAR Cup Series of all active drivers. Him and Byron are the only drivers better than Eric Jones in that time. Tyler Reddick has done all this without winning here, as far as I am aware. So to me, this is a good opportunity for him. This year he's been running way, way, way better. So if he had previous great results and he's now able to win regularly, I think this is a perfect combination for Tyler Reddick. And I love the fact that he's not even the favorite on DraftKings right now. Currently, Denny Hamlin is plus 500. I love Tyler Reddick plus 600.
I like it.
I just added that. Spider.
Love it.
I mean, why the hell wouldn't I do that? What do you got, Quicks?
I got the worst picks ever here.
Oh, no.
No, just like the way it. All right, I'll just do what I did. So I did a 3-pick top 3 finish. So I basically am picking exactly the top 3 here. Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, William Byron. All to finish in the top 3.
What does that pay?
Not
Is that
enough.
a superfecta?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Superfecta always, I think.
Yeah, something like that. It's
and that
crazy.
plays plus 4,000, which you might want more for that that threading of a needle. I actually like this one though as a parlay. Brad K has really good numbers here, and I think the past couple weeks he's raced really well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take a top 5 parlayed with Kyle Larson winning the race, plus 35.75.
All right, so you're taking Kyle with a top 5, Brad K, and that's what's the odds on that?
Plus 35.75.
Oh wow, okay. And then you're also the other one we'll just call the script.
Yep.
Because it seems like you have the script for the whole
Larson,
race.
Blaney,
involved.
Byron, all in the top 3.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for us this week for Rubbin is Racing. Listen, liking and subscribing always helps out and keeps the boys going. So we appreciate you. We appreciate all our sponsors. And we'll see you guys next week on Rubbin is Racing.